On today's episode of Pour Into My Cup, I continue the conversation with Hira, CEO of HisiBrands. We talk about starting afraid, diversity in brands, and 1 year in business. Get ready to have your cup poured into. Yeah. So switching gears a little bit, and you kind of mentioned it with the person who messaged you the other day, but how do you stay motivated to continue on with your business? Like, I'm sure there's times where you're like, maybe you didn't have these moments, but I know other business owners who've had times where they're like, you know what, maybe this isn't the right thing for me. Maybe I should just quit. How did you stay motivated to keep pushing and make it past your first year?
Oh my God. Yeah, so it wasn't easy, and you definitely have your times. And so I don't think they're lying when they say the first year is the hardest, because I would say these thoughts were probably more prevalent in my mind then than they are now. But I think that the fear of regret was so real for me. I knew that, like, if I didn't do it then, if I couldn't do it when I have like no real obligation, like I don't have children, I don't have a mortgage, I don't have like all these things that society makes or claims to be as, like, you know, the biggest, like, time consuming, most like just the biggest obligations, which they are. They're it's definitely important, and and I'm sure that, you know, it kind of like switches gears for a lot of other people in their life, but like I didn't have any of that at that time. And I was like, if I don't do it now, how am I going to do it then? How am I going to do it when I do have a kid, or I do have, you know, major like home expenses, or major, I don't know, like something else happens. And so I think that I stayed motivated in that sense, that I really, really did think that, you know, I tried this whole, I tried this, I tried that. I interned a lot when I was in school, for like various brands. And then, I worked in accounting. And so I did like test out all these things, and I was like, okay, but which one of these can I do forever? Like every job I was at, I was like, okay, I think I'm supposed to own the place. Like, I think I'm supposed to be my own boss. And so that was like a reoccurring theme for me. And that's kind of what made the decision easy. Having the fear of not knowing if what would happen if I didn't do it, and a mixture of just actually feeling like that is what I was supposed to do.
Why do you think for some women who want to start their own business or brand, it takes them longer to actually get started on it?
I think that starting is definitely the hardest step. Just like everything else. I mean, with something like our pitches, for instance, or like doing a deck, I would say that's probably not what I love to run into, you know, the office to do. I'm not like, yay, let's make a PowerPoint and, like, you know, pitch, which is of course the most important part, but it's like I have writer's block. I don't consider myself a writer. And so I mean, I can write. I wrote a 30-page thesis, but I don't love sitting there and writing. And so it's always the hurdle of beginning. And so if you can get past that by whatever your motivation may be, of like, you know, it's maybe, you know, you're not going to make as much as you want to make in something else, and you know that this is your way out, or this is even if it's not your way out money wise, maybe it's just like the way you channel your thoughts. And if you get some sort of like therapy out of it, if that makes sense, I think that that's like hugely motivating, because you do have to, you're going to spend a lot of time doing it. And so I think a lot of people also have the fear that they can't do it. And so they just don't start. And that's why I like went back to the whole regret thing. And I could never look back and be like, wow, what if? And so I think if whatever that like lights that fire for you. But I mean, so many people have so many different reasons for not doing things. It could be financial. It could be, you might think that you need to do, actually, I have a better answer for you. There are a lot of misconceptions flying around. I know I've met a ton of people. Surprisingly enough, I was shocked. One of the first groups I went to, like a women's networking group, this woman she was an editor at a magazine, and she wanted to start her own accessories line for the longest time. And she was like, I've been thinking about it for 5 years and I haven't done it. And I'm like, what? And she was like, yeah, I didn't go to business school, so I didn't think I could do it. I was like, what? I was like, honey, went to business school, and I'm telling you, you do not need to go to business school to start an accessories line. I mean, if you're going to make, like, I don't know, if you're gonna like you're a chemist and you're gonna like start a chem lab, like, yeah, go to medical school, like, go to med school. But like for business school, I'm sorry, I don't think you need to go to for a business. I don't think you need to go to business school. And so people think that it's going to teach them how to make a business. I don't want to knock school, because I was actually praising school, and I still always will praise school. But I think that's a huge misconception, and I don't think that people should let things like that discourage them, because again, a lot of these things are innate. I think being an entrepreneur is innate. I don't think the entrepreneurship major in my school is like something I would ever take, even if you paid me. That's my personal opinion, because I don't think you can teach someone to have entrepreneurial ability. I think that other skills can be taught, but you can't teach someone to, like, you have to care about like creating this and that. And it's just like, it's not for everyone. And so, but I guess the biggest thing is like, don't let these misconceptions flying around kind of like hinder you from doing if you do think that is what you're supposed to do. Like, or at that point, if she thought that way, and I'm sorry to say this, but like maybe she shouldn't open up her own accessories line, because hey, because that's 5 years of thinking, and that could have been 5 years of work towards it. And so it wasn't like a young girl. I mean, it's just, I'm sorry if she hears this, but
no, it's true, because I feel like every decision she makes their own will be like out of fear. Like, okay, well, how do I know that I can actually make this product? How do I know I can make this for sale? Oh, I made a sale. That's great. But could I make 10 more? Maybe I should stop. Fear will be controlling her the whole way through.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. And like me, like I had said before, I'm not a photographer, but I get behind the camera, and I do take the photos. Some of the photos I've taken myself, like a lot of the photos I've taken myself, and I learned to do basic retouching on Adobe. I've learned, just so that I'm not always going to someone else, but like, you have to be able to be open to wearing all these like different hats, because you're, again, as an independently owned business, you're going to manage your resources accordingly also. And so you're not always going to be like, you know what, I'm going to spend $1,000 on a shoot, but I could like, kind of do that myself. And so, sometimes it is important, and sometimes you do it, but like you have to, kind of like allocate accordingly. And that's what you learn. And I think that's, you can't think like, but I'm not a photographer, so I can't do that.
Yeah.
Not to discount what a photographer does. There's a lot more technicality. I have very good friends that are, and I give them so much credit, because they're so like, just, they know so much about it. But like, if it's just going to be one post that I just need to get like the job across, and I like the point across, and I can do it myself, I do it myself.
I agree. And I agree with your statement about education is important, but then again, in her position, she should have just went ahead with it, even if she didn't have the education. From what I've seen from entrepreneurs, I feel like experience is just as important as education. for some people, education can be the one thing that takes them a step further. However, for other people, whereas you saw your father as an entrepreneur, you already had like that background experience of seeing what it's like to hold a business. If anything, education was just like additional on top of what you already
Right.
knew. And you also had your father as a mentor. So for her, I agree with you. Like she should have just already went for it. But then again, like you also mentioned, it could have also been money or family
Right.
dynamics or just other. We as people, we have so many different wheels turning. We're trying to like pay our bills on time, go buy groceries,
Right.
actually try and cook instead of eating out all the time, trying to start the business, have a relationship, hang out with your friends, travel. Like there's so many different wheels that are turning, and that's why I think adulting is just like mental health. I think has become a bigger topic because it's so important like to have that downtime while also trying to keep every wheel turning and have your hand in so many different pots.
Right, absolutely. And so you know what? But then you come to this point where like you know you can't be everywhere at the same time. There are things you're gonna have to sacrifice on, and that's it's annoying. It sucks, but um, you kind of you if it's family per se, and you know that like doing this work is gonna give them a better life, or doing this is gonna make them proud, or doing this is gonna X, Y, and Z. That might be more valuable to that person than you making it for some random dinner. And I
Mhm.
don't want to discount like face to face time. Of course, like you want to, I miss my parents all the time, but like or my friends, and you want to see more of everyone, but um at the end of the day, if you're not like, it's whatever's going to fulfill you first. And I know that I can't be the best version of myself if I didn't get my work done, because that's what's going to be on my mind. And if I know that, I had
Right.
to send this out, and I really gave myself this deadline, or I really, had to finish this for that, or someone emailed me 3 days ago and I didn't get back to them, that's really going to bother me. And so I'm sorry I'm like 2 hours late, but I showed up, and like I feel better because I finished up my work. And so you kind of have to like it, because it's not worth it if you make it there and then you're just on your phone the whole time, or if your work's on your mind, or so you want to make sure that you give whoever you're making that time for the best version, or all your attention.
And I agree, and that actually brings up a great question. You recently got
Oh,
married.
thank
Congratulations.
you.
How exactly do you balance even having your sister as your business
Mhm.
partner? How do you balance when it's time to work versus okay, now we're off the clock. You and your sister as sisters, we're not going to talk about business. We're just going to have fun and talk about family things. Or you when you're with your
Uh-huh.
husband, here, honey, I have all my time right now. How do you have that work life
Oh my
balance?
God, that's a great question. It was hard. And then it gets harder because then you're like, oh, do we spend time with his family or my family? Or like, where do we go? Or like, do we invite everyone? Do we just invite like siblings? It's tough. It's definitely a discussion. But with my sister, I think that my husband and my sister both, like, more power to them for dealing with the way that I was about like creating high side, because I literally could not talk about anything else. I heard myself getting annoying to them. I was like, I need to shut up, because well, he wasn't my husband at the time, but yeah, like when we were just like going out and like at dinner, or like, he'd come pick me up, and I mean, all I could talk about was, so you can't help it. Like I wish I had a better answer that, I was able to like turn it off, but like I couldn't. And I think that also said something, and it said something to them, because I know that you don't like, everyone loves to say that you don't have anything to prove to anyone. But in my opinion, like, I think I want to, maybe not for everyone else, myself for sure. But I also like know what I'm capable of. And so I don't even actually think I'm just proving it to myself. I think I want it for the people that are close to me. And I want, like, you know what? I'm sorry I wasn't like at your wedding. No, I don't think I've missed a wedding, but like during school, it was crazy. I was like missing things left and right. But I think that you want to make it worthwhile for them too. And so I do want to prove it to them, not because that they expect it or they doubt it, but just so that they can feel good about it, because the people that I keep around me now are like the well-wishers and are the supporters. So I do want to do it for them. And so and for dealing with me and like my manic talks about it. And like I did, and then my sister, oh my God, like I think like for a month straight, I didn't text her about anything but the brand in the beginning. And it would be like, okay, are the girls okay? My nieces, I'll always ask about them, and then I'll get right into the talk of work. And she's like, okay, Hira, I'm okay too. Like, I'm alive also. And I'm like, yeah, I know, you're texting back. I know you're alive. Like, okay, so what color? Like, like, what should we do next? Like, she's like, okay, all right. Well, that's what you have to, that's, I guess, who you become. And that shows you're really about it. And if I was so easily like on and off of it now, though, I mean, so that was building stages, but like, I think now I don't want to be coming across as a person that always talks about it to people I don't know. So when you're so excited about something, or for me, my personality is to kind of like, just like be overflowing of it. And like, it just shows on my face that I like have something going on, and I'm like, I'm just waiting to let it out. But, I won't talk about it in like bigger family environments, or like if we're meeting other people, or like, it won't exactly be dinner talk, dinner party talk, unless someone specifically asks, like, what do you do? Like, and then I'll be like, okay, this is what I do. Or like, you got to read the room, or you got to like read the situation and see like, you know what, this person's probably not going to understand anything I say about it. So you know what, I'm going to tell them I'm still an accountant. Is what, and that happens. I still do. It's not a lie, but it's not like what I'm currently practicing. But I mean, hey, it's true. So you know what, that's the language they're going to speak. And so that's kind of what I'm going to speak into, and then move on. And I think it comes off, it sounds abrasive, I feel like, just saying that out loud, but I think it's actually really smart, because you don't want to waste your time sitting there convincing or kind of drilling your idea or your like, kind of like way of being into someone who you know is just not going to get it. So I've kind of just learned to be like, oh, I do this, I do that. Move along.
It's actually refreshing and relatable to hear, because I know when I first started my boutique, I would like sit there on the computer, like trying to learn, like you try to learn Adobe, trying to edit stuff, set up the
Uh-huh.
site, things. And every day my friend would call me and she would say, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm working on this today. Oh, I got my business cards printed, or I'm reviewing like the final shots. And
Uh-huh.
she, at one point, she's like, okay, like shut up about it. Like, I don't want to hear anything anymore about
Oh
this business.
God.
And at first I was hurt. I'm just like, well, like this is something like I'm happy about.
Mhm.
I'm finally going after my passion, and I'm not complaining for once about my job that I at the time couldn't stand.
Yes.
And you would think that your friends or people in general would just be happy for you,
Uh-huh.
but something that I've learned that, well, maybe they're like also not in a place where they're not happy in their life. So seeing you be happy, it kind of is just like, well, dang, like I want to be there too.
Yeah.
And it's also like, well, like shut up about this, like talk about something else. But like you, it's something that I had to learn, like, okay, let me just mention one thing or don't say anything at all, and try
Uh-huh.
it once a week, and that's it.
Yes.
And same as you, when I meet new people that may not understand, I'm just like, well, how far should I explain what I do, or should I do
Right.
something else? So I usually just say, well, I am a brand ambassador, which is true. It's what,
Uh-huh.
like you said, it's what I do, but it's not fully
Right.
what I do. And I just don't know if it's society that just is like not used to like women actually owning a brand, or if it's just that, well, you're owning a brand, I've always wanted to do the same thing, now I
You know,
feel, go ahead.
oh, you
I
know what? That's a great. Okay, so that's actually it's putting it into perspective for me, because I've obviously had the same experience, And for me, I like to call it speaking the same language, right? And so it's actually a good and bad thing. But I think the simplest way to kind of put it, because I want to believe that equality exists and people aren't surprised by women owned businesses, but it doesn't. And they're still surprised. And there is a glass ceiling and et cetera, et cetera. However, when you meet someone who's really, really good at, is like a surgeon and all they've ever done was, things related to the medical field. And they kind of just, which is an amazing, the profession and nothing to that, but just that's all they know. And that's kind of like to they're the best of the best. And to be the best of the best, they had to kind of tunnel vision to get there. And so in that same way, if now you meet, someone who's kind of reached that caliber of like being like an expert, you you do know of other fields, of course, but like it's not necessarily the language you speak. And so for us, we are entrepreneurs, and it's kind of like all encompassing. And we think everyone knows what we're talking about. Just like now, if you go talk to him, he's going to think everyone knows how to do open heart surgery. Well, no, but like, it's kind of like the world he lives in. So all the people he associates with might, but like if he's talking to you or me, we don't know. And so this is a bad example. Can we cut that out?
That's really good because I actually had friends in college who were majors, and they would talk about stuff. Like I actually worked at the College of Vet Med at my previous college, and times I worked in the chair's office, so the chair would come back and explain something to us, and I would be like, "Can you not say it in science terms? Please explain it in the way possible."
But I don't speak that language. Yeah,
and
exactly.
Go ahead.
And I could relate that back to music. So a lot of the branding for HisiBrands has been kind of like inspired by the urban hip hop culture. I'm from Queens. I grew up in New York, and so I grew like listening to rap and just like a lot of like Queens artists, and so or New York artists rather, and so that it just the term oil money. It was a play on the culture, and then the other culture, which is the Middle Eastern culture, which I spent a lot of time in Dubai. We have a place there. I go there quite frequently. And so that was kind of like a play on that. The way that I brand certain things are like as real as my hair, or like Hisi hair, or Hisi on the hair. It's like a lot of the language that I use is kind of encompassing of New York. We are a New York brand, but we're also a Dubai brand. We're also a Pakistani brand. We're also like it's everything that I am. And so that's kind of like just like music. I listen to like rap, and so I think everyone knows who A Boogie is. And it's like, oh no, everyone doesn't know A Boogie. They play him on Hot 97 Power, and like that, those are New York stations, and someone else doesn't know. But I just assume everyone knows like these like Davies. Now everyone might know who they are, but like no one knew who they were before. And so it's just it's kind of like the same thing. You kind of like tunnel yourself to like what you know, and you kind of like think that everyone else does. And so when I realized that wasn't the case, I kind of just like shut up sometimes. And I was like, you know what? I don't have the time to sit here and educate you on good rap. So I'm just going to move along.
No, and don't worry, because I'm from Florida actually, and I recently moved to New York. So for me, which this is like the dumbest thing ever, but I thought everyone knew what Zephyrhills water was. And then when I went inside the grocery store, I was like, well, where's my Zephyrhills? And everyone's like, what are you talking about? And so I'm like, well, okay, what's like the New York equivalent? And it tastes
I have no idea what this is. Rashiba, is it a drink or is it a
water? It's a brand. So I'm from Florida, and there's a city in Florida called Zephyrhills, Florida. So that's where the water comes from. So I'm used to this water. So I went to New York, and I guess the New York brand is Poland Spring. I and I was just like, "This water tastes nasty and so different," and everyone's like, "It tastes
Oh, the
fine to
spring
me."
is nasty?
Yeah,
Oh my God.
I think it's just the nastiest water ever, and I was like, "I can't stay to drink this," so that started my journey of trying different waters. Now
I'm
and
dying.
and it's so funny because when you're I feel like that's why I feel like people you need to get out of your comfort. And I feel
Yes.
like that's where me leaving Florida, it's allowed me to be able to, wow, something as simple as water is different and people aren't used to what I'm used to. And me learning to like be open minded while also respecting someone else's culture or way of living, it's important.
Uh-huh.
That's
Oh
completely
my God, no,
off topic,
absolutely.
but
I'm dying that you were looking for your Florida water in New York.
I thought it was everywhere. So I'm just like, well, where is my Zephyr Hills? And people are like, what is that?
I'm
So
gonna Google that. I'm gonna order some.
do it. I'll actually send you the name of it. And I was just like, where is my Zephyr Hills? And people were like, what is that? And then I showed my coworker the water, and she's like, that just looks so weird and foreign to me. And I'm like,
Oh
no, this is
my
like the best
goodness.
water ever. So
Now I know what to send you as a thank you. I'm gonna send you some Zephyr
I was
Hills.
gonna send it to you. But
I'm dying. That's too funny.
But actually, speaking of the fact that you're used to a certain norm as being Muslim and just
Uh-huh,
recent things that have come into play in society and the world, and I think from my standpoint, I'm not Muslim and I don't mean to disrespect the Muslim culture,
uh-huh,
but I've seen Muslims growing up. Like I know the different variations that a Muslim woman can look like. And me working
uh-huh,
at Victoria's Secret, I've had Muslim women come into the store and me work with them and just learning about their culture. I've also worked with international students, so I try to remain as respectful as possible while also
mhm,
remaining curious at the same time. But
mhm,
why is it so important with where society is going with how we just both talked about how when we come into a room and we want to talk about being an entrepreneur, but people we all post about it on social media, but you realize that when you meet people, they're not used to it or they don't fully understand it. How is it as a Muslim woman being a powerhouse and owning a brand? How is that also a challenge with translating it back to society and saying, yes, I am Muslim, yes, I am a woman, and yes, I am the entrepreneur and owner of this brand?
oh my goodness, that's beautiful. That makes me sound so cool.
You are.
Um, so I'm sorry. I don't mean to correct you, but I do have to. So the Muslim
Don't worry.
religion,
Religion,
not
religion.
culture. Yeah. So our religion, it's so sad to me that it's still that just religion is such a taboo still, and it's so foreign to some people. But I guess you can't blame people. You have to blame, I guess, the society. It's just what the people that don't, right, or the people that report but like not correctly, or shed the wrong light on it, because it's so easy to say this and that, and for so many people to believe it if they don't have anything to kind of bounce it off of and kind of like counter it. And so I guess that it's our responsibility then to kind of like elevate our platform as much as we can so that these stereotypes don't exist anymore or for future generations. And so that our children and moving forward don't have to go through, like, oh, you're the first Muslim person I've ever met.
Yeah.
Like that's gotten that. I literally I grew up in Queens, extremely diverse, right? It's the most diverse borough in the world. And so I was very fortunate. And so a lot of my views of how I thought the world was and how I thought the rest of the country was extremely skewed, because I grew up with every other person in my high school was Asian, white, black, Muslim, like South Asian, like it's every other person. Like I had friends that were across the board. And so that's not the case everywhere else. And I realized that when I went to college.
Mm,
And when I went the university, I went to Hofstra, great school in Long Island, but culture shock, reverse culture shock.
mm,
Whereas like the majority of the population was actually Caucasian. It was white.
Mm.
And it was so weird for me that like I met, and it's crazy because it's in New York. It's literally 25 minutes from Queens. Like it's right there. And so, but I guess like a lot of people come from abroad. A lot of people come from out of state. And so you're meeting like it's this whole other group of people that have never seen someone with like my skin complexion or like my hair type. And it was weird. And at first, I think the first semester, I wanted to transfer out so bad because I was like, I don't think I could get used to this. I was like, I like stick out like a house on fire. And so, and then you eventually like realize, okay, there's more, or maybe I just got immune to it. But we did end up seeing like more diversity, and I did kind of find my crew.
Mhm.
But it's I think that what we can do is kind of just like be the best representation of like a kind of like just hold the values of our religion where and make that known in part of our conversation, even if it seems a little forceful. Like I know a lot of people refrain from sharing where they're from. They want to assimilate so badly, and assimilating is fine, but like I don't think it's fine to forget. And I speak Urdu. I've read the Quran. I've learned Arabic. I've like, you know, I speak to my sister who speaks fluent English, and everyone in my family speaks English. But when we're at home, we speak it in Urdu. And it's like, it's something that we, like I completely want to carry on. And I think that I would be so proud if someone, thought of me as a successful, business owner, and that and added a Muslim woman into that title, into that combo, because I I think that there's not a lot that, I mean, there are so many that exist, but like if I can like help to negate the stereotype and kind of like show the world through how I act, and show people, you know, be kind and kind of give forward, and, you know, spread the message of like, let's be positive and support each other. Those are all values that I grew up with. And my mom is I'd say fairly religious. And so she definitely instilled all of this in me. And so if I could tribute any good trait of mine to my religion, I will do that. And I think it's honest, because I was raised with those values. And so the credit goes to that.
I agree, and just from your, like, point of view, how we just talked about basically throughout the talk, on social media, there's all this diversity, 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 but where is the
Mhm.
disconnect coming into place where we're talking about it on social media about this diversity, but then when it comes into real life and you meet people in the real world, and they're like, "Wow, I've never met a Muslim woman, or I've never met someone with your skin color." Where is the disconnect, or where's the connection not happening?
I know, that's a great question. But on that note, though, I think that yes, the social media bandwagon has gotten on it, and you know what, um, a lot of brands did with inclusion. I mean, Rihanna, everyone knows, with Fenty, with
Yes.
the foundations, 40 Shades, that was like a huge, huge thing, and that's like showing inclusion. But I think that, you know, part of my mission is also to kind of give credit back to where it's due.
Mm.
And I think that I honestly think, unfortunately, and I'm not coming at anyone, but I think that the Middle East or South Asia has kind of been given a disservice in recent years, and a lot, just because a lot of inspiration and so many people derive inspo from the region, but it's not given
Credit.
the credit.
Mhm.
It's really, really not. And I wanna give it that credit again. It's actually, one of my friends even said it to me. She was like, it's the main form of cultural appropriation,
Mhm.
when
Mhm.
you're taking so many ideas from uh, from a culture, from a religion, from a whatever it may be. But in my case, specifically for the brand, it's been our culture, and so many brands have come out with oud product, for instance. And it's like, okay, that's great. And I love that everyone, loves oud, and it's the most expensive oil that you can find, but it's not your culture.
No, I get what you're
It's not
saying.
your people. Like everyone wants to throw it into their candles now, or everyone wants to throw it into their product to make it sound the most luxe or coveted. But it's and do that, but like also give the credit.
I respect,
And so
yeah.
I feel like I can. I mean, it's what we've I every year. I mean, or every time I like on our holidays, like that's what we're like religiously. Like we can't wear like scents, and so oil was always oud is permissible in Islam. Like we use that when we go to the mosque. Like you can wear oud. It's acceptable to my knowledge. Don't quote me, but and the hair oiling process, like I mentioned, it's inherent to the South Asian region. It started because the humidity and the climate, and that's kind of like what was accessible to everyone, and that's how hair oiling came about, and for generations. And my grandmother's grandmother oiled her daughter's hair, and so forth. And so I think that so many other brands now have a hair oil. I mean, and then there's just like all these brands. I don't want to name all the names, but I'm sure they're carried in Sephora, and they're celeb hairstylists. And it's like, oh, I have this line, and I have this hair oil, and it's like, I have this oud perfume, and it's like, okay, guys, this has nothing to like. I'm glad you made a trip to India and found some like tree to derive this oil from, but like I like it's I don't know, it's not given the credit. I mean, no, you can't. Nothing in the branding, nothing in the packaging, nothing in the description, for God's sakes. Like if you're not going to put it on the bottle, maybe the website and a little node to inspired by the Middle Eastern culture, that would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
But nope. And so back to the Rihanna point, I don't think that she can do any wrong. I think she's great. But I know that there was a lot of controversy around her Moroccan collection she did
Yeah,
over the
there
summer.
was.
But yeah, she did this amazing line, and it was beautiful, and the models looked great. And she had um who am I thinking of? Why can't I remember her name? She gave birth right after the show this
Oh, I
time.
know who you're talking about. Is it no, not Ducky. It's
No, it's not Ducky.
I know
It's
what you're talking about. I know, darn.
yes. What's her name? I mean, she's great. It's like a one name.
Yeah, give me one second. I'm gonna see if I can look it up because I know exactly
Okay.
who you're talking about.
Uh huh.
Wait, I
Oh my god, I'm gonna think of it, and it's gonna like piss me off. Wait, don't tell me. I need to think.
it's not Ducky. People are probably just listening to us and just like it's her.
I know. Wait, are they gonna?
It's
Um,
her name is Slickwood.
Slick, Slick.
Slick.
Yes. Yeah, so I love what she did with Slick, like kind of put her on the platform too. I mean, I think she was like one of the what's it? I don't know much about the history of her, but like showing different looks, right? Is the point that she's showcased so many different people and put them on this platform that like other brands kind of just always went in this cookie cutter way. And I love what she did. And so Slick was in there. I think Ducky was in there. It was Rihanna, and then it was like an Asian model,
Mhm.
but then there was no Moroccan,
Mhm.
and it was like, okay, so it's the Moroccan collection without a Moroccan or
That makes
like
sense. That
model.
makes sense.
And and so that would have been nice. I'm just saying.
No, I agree, and that's where I think that brands miss it. I don't know if maybe it's because that the offices aren't really diverse. Like when I say offices, I mean like each department aren't diverse enough to have like that Moroccan, the Asian, the black person
Yeah.
to catch it and say, even though it sucks because being typically the only black person in the room, sometimes you're always the person who has to take on the black perspective. Even though
Uh,
I can give a black perspective, not all black women or black humans feel the same way I feel. So I don't
yeah.
always carry the burden of having to give the black perspective, but it is at least good to have that seat at the table to give the perspective. And I
Yeah.
like if you're gonna have a Moroccan line, make sure you have that Moroccan view or that even if it's one person, it should be at least a majority since that
Mm.
is the culture.
You know what? She didn't have to be Moroccan. She could have been like any type of Middle
Yeah,
Eastern or like a South
just
Asian or
having the
something
representation there is important.
representing that region exactly. And I think that you know what? There's a scarcity. There aren't that many. I mean, we've covered diversity in I think every region. I mean, I don't think the white like there's always been Caucasian models
Yeah,
like that was kind of like the thing,
yeah,
and then we got the Asians in there. There's like black representation. I mean, there isn't South Asian
yeah, that is very
representation. How
true.
often do you see an Indian girl walking a runway? You don't. You never see one.
Mm.
She's not there yet. And so I think we've hit the spots. I think like we've kind of like covered a lot of the races and we're doing an amazing job. But I think that there's still some
So,
work to do
yeah,
in
I
that way.
agree. I agree,
Yeah.
and
Like covering one minority doesn't cover all of them.
yeah,
And I don't want to be that person who's like, they got to do this and be so picky that like, but what about us? Like, I don't think it's like, I think it's a big enough region to call for representation now. I think it's reached that point. If there weren't so many of us in this country, I'd say okay, or just globally. I mean, it's just like it's the most populated country in the world, India. I mean, I'm Pakistani, but I'm just saying it. Maybe I'm just doing it. Maybe I'm just generalizing the. But I mean, I'd be happy if we just any place in that region was represented. I'm not calling for specifically a Pakistani girl or like or a Middle Eastern girl or an Indian girl. It's just anyone from that region would be nice.
I agree, and that's unfortunately where it's just like this slow process that takes time, and it's like slowly over time, all ethnicities are being represented, but it's almost where the majority is getting very like, wow, like we're not going to be the majority much longer. Like there's going to be everything represented, and I don't want to speak, but I guess it almost is. It makes them. I don't want to say inferior, but just like it's making them uncomfortable in a sense.
Uh-huh.
So it's gonna be a long time coming, but it is something that I think is gonna take precedent. I hope and I pray that I'm alive to see it happen because that would be such a beautiful thing, but it's just something we just have to wait and see play out. But
Yeah.
I was actually talking with a friend last night about this where I was telling her about my brand and how I wanna make sure that I'm including diverse, where even though, yes, there is an Asian model, but there's never like thick Asians or there's always like this
Mm.
one mindset or stereotype of how the Asian or the black model looks like. And
Oh, that's such a good
and my
point.
friend
That's true.
yeah, and my friend was saying, "Well, it starts from home. What are the parents showing them?" And I said, "Yeah, that is important, but I think it also plays the fact as to what they see in their everyday lives. Because growing up, if you think about it, yes, your family is your family, and even now your husband is your husband, but 40 hours or however many hours you're out working or doing whatever else you're doing, you're not really spending that time with your significant other or your family. You're
Right.
seeing other things that are like influencing you into who the person you're going to be. Yes,
Uh-huh.
your parents are the ones who set discipline and they set rules and things into place. And some people don't have that from their parents or whoever their guardian is. But from your perspective, do you think it's important to have like that culture shock or that culture lesson from your family? Or do you think it's more important to get it from the real world? Or do you think it comes from both aspects?
I think that it's kind of a mixture of both.
Mm,
Um, and of course, where you grow up has everything to do with that. I mean, or a lot because there's only so much I think that you can control in your home environment, and you can, I think it's a greater effort to kind of like instill it in children, I guess, assume you're saying, because that's where it begins, right? It begins in the home in these adolescent years. And but I think, to be honest, I don't watch a lot of TV at all.
Mm.
Literally only watch Gossip Girl on Netflix reruns in the background. Still to this day, it's the only show I've ever watched in completion.
What?
And and it's only because I can't, like, firstly, I don't have time. And then if I do, I don't have time to sit down and watch. It needs to be on in the background and I need to know exactly what's going on at all times. And I've just memorized the show. So it could be playing and I tune in here and there and I don't miss anything. So
Wow.
that's kind of how I watch TV. Exactly. I cannot sit down. I tried to watch Friends. I've watched a few episodes, but yeah, like I don't have a TV show. So that's a sidebar, fun fact. But yeah, my nieces had the Disney Channel on a few weeks ago, and I saw even the animated shows show diversity. They show, like, I forgot what show it was, but like the little characters were colorful.
Wow.
And I was like, this is great. I don't think that, I mean, actually, Hey Arnold had Gerald.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we saw Gerald, but like, I mean, that's it. And Phoebe was Asian. Okay, Hey Arnold was diverse, but you know why? Because that was in Queens.
Yeah.
That's why Hey Arnold was set in Queens. But yeah, so back to it being a testament of where you grow up, and that has a lot to do with it. But I think that TV shows have slowly, like, integrated that in, being more deliberate with showing representation. I think that's super cool. And then, but what you can teach in your home is obviously, like, if your parents truly live by it, and if they kind of like practice that, and if you see that, like, I have this aunt who comes over and she looks nothing like me, but my mom tells me that's my aunt, and they call each other sisters, then, that's my aunt. And, I know that's going to be the case for my children, since I have so many friends that are of different races. And so they will have, I do think that, so to sum it all up, I think it definitely starts in the home. What I was saying, that I think that it's really cool that the next generation will now see, they have a Greek aunt, and they have they have a Pakistani aunt, and then they have like a Polish aunt, and they have, and it's just like, that's how it is. Like, it's family. It's all my friends, and it's all like people I associate with, and showing that, it just doesn't matter if she's Jamaican, she's still your aunt because she's my best friend, and that's what it is. So I think that's really cool, and it'll start in the home, and then it'll hopefully translate into society, as just people are becoming more accepting, and it's just because you have no choice. I mean, there's no reason not to be, and I think that hopefully it'll be easier for people. I think we're getting there. I think in later times it'll be a lot different than it was for us. There's just so many more channels of awareness, and or to give awareness, or learn, or see what's out there, that it's kind of inevitable.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt the episode, but we just have to pay some bills and keep the podcast running. So here's a message from our sponsor. All right, intermission is over. Let's resume the episode. I agree. And the last point I will say, with like using Rihanna as an example, but just trying to stick to the inclusion and diversity part, is one thing that did kind of bother me is that research showed that women of color weren't really buying makeup products as much. However, once Rihanna came out with this very diverse foundation line, and there's always room for improvement and more diversity in it. All of the other major makeup brands came out with 40 more shades. Oh, we have more shades for women of color. And it just sucks that it takes someone challenging, or not even trying to challenge, just being authentically them and just being inclusive as to who they are, because I feel like Rihanna is just, that's just who
Right.
she is. And I know that she knew that obviously women of color would buy the product, but her just doing it and not looking at it as a sales perspective,
Uh-huh.
maybe she did, but it just sucks that sometimes it takes that person who does that for other brands to have
Jump
that wake
on
up
the
call.
bandwagon. I know. And honestly, like,
Yeah.
so she's always been an influencer, right? Like before it was even a thing. She's always had the coolest style, and like growing up, she was always my favorite, and she still is. I mean, you can't beat Rue's outfits.
I agree.
So I think that it's just exactly, it's just her being her, where she was like, you know what, I'm gonna get all my girls in this range. Like everyone's gonna feel included. And so I think that, yeah, and well, then it goes back to, right, like major corporations, they just I mean, some people just aren't as inspiring, and they just need to copy other people, and so other people need to
I
copy
agree.
indie brands. I mean, I'm again not going to name names, but there are products that are now being put, like I do see certain hair brands posting more about their oil, and I'm not saying I'm on everyone's radar, but I know that I'm on some people's radar. And I know that
No,
bigger
it's
brands look out for little brands because they derive a lot of inspiration for them, because we're so we do have the story, we do have the like a very I'm not sitting here on 1,000 SKUs and you know, like many different products. I took time for one for a reason, and you know, they launched with 100, and so they don't really know why they even have hair oil, but you know, they do, and now they need to like
yeah,
follow up and keep thinking about, like, you know, refreshing their minds and you know, getting more ideas, and that's what they do. They definitely have their eye out for smaller brands. And so I think that's kind of like the same thing in her situation. Not that she launched on a small scale, she definitely launched in a big way. She was in Sephora off the bat, but she did pave the way for for bigger brands. And I want to say that it's unfair, because why didn't anyone think of it before? I think it's a great thing now
mhm,
that like she's at a certain price point, but now I think Maybelline or another drugstore brand did it too, so, which is at a different price point. And so now if they have 40 shades in like Dwayne Reed,
every color.
then that's a whole other market that's now introduced to having like their color in a foundation down like at Dwayne Reed for $10 maybe, you know, which like, is
Yeah,
an amazing
yeah,
thing. But why was it? It's 2018. Are you kidding me? Another thing
yeah.
I read the other day, which literally my jaw dropped, was Beyonce on this September issue of Vogue. It was this
Yeah,
September.
this September, yeah. That was the
First
first.
black photographer for Vogue? Are you
Yeah,
kidding me?
that
Are
was
you kidding
crazy.
me? I can't even. I literally could not believe that. Are you kidding me? Vogue's been around for what? Like 125 years? Are you kidding me? It never
No, that
had
was
a black photographer. I literally could not believe that. I was disgusted. I was like, "Is this is insane? It's insane. It's sad. Like, really,
honestly, I'm not sure if that was the first black photographer or the first black photographer for the September issue, because you know the September issue is one of
oh,
the most
of
important
course. I'm
issues.
sorry for my like
So
crazy, exaggerated like response, but it
no,
wasn't
I completely
exaggerated
agree.
because I truly feel like that. I think that's a shame. Because it's sad. I mean, you know what? But I want to point out that I'm 100% certain there hasn't been a South Asian South, you know,
Mhm,
but that's okay. That's okay. I'm not sitting
yeah.
here saying there has to be, but just the fact that like they didn't stray away.
We're still having the
Yeah,
first.
it still
It
happened.
just, to me, it just sucks that it's 2018 and it's still the first black this, the first Hispanic
Yeah.
that, the first Indian this, and it's like we're in 2018. civil rights happened how long ago? And not even forget civil rights, but why is it taking this long for this much diversity to happen
Was
in
it
the
just
world?
not important? I just don't understand. What did they not think that, or were they truly evaluating it based off of, she's a better photographer? Like, I don't know what the criteria is. I don't know, but I think that it should have been a point. I think it should have been a point way before now to be like, you know what, we're gonna make sure that we switch up the mix a little bit. So because
I
our reader
agree.
isn't just of this race, or our reader, I think they'd be really, really proud and happy to see that, like, this person's from Germany. I don't know.
Mhm.
But like, maybe, I'm sure Vogue Germany has German photographers. I don't know. But
Yeah. I agree. I agree. And even what you said about the indie brands, I was talking with my friend about that and I was telling her it sucks that, which I won't name names, that certain brand or fashion companies will take designs, which I've seen people that I follow who are indie owners, and they'll release their first ever line that they've worked
are you
tirelessly
talking
hard
about
for and
Jeremy
invested so
Scott from
much money.
Moschino?
What do you say?
I know who you're talking about. I think I just got it. I did this
There's
thing.
there's plenty of brands where they'll just take their designs and like you said, they're able to mass produce it and do it so
Oh
much quicker because they
God,
have the money.
yes, and you have the
But they
attention.
yeah, and they don't pay back and give back the credit that it's deserved. And one point that my friend didn't make, well, at least people can buy the product at a more affordable price. And I said, yeah, that is great. They can buy it at a more affordable price. However, there's this indie designer who's worked so hard
Yeah,
and invested so much
yeah,
money to produce this product that they're the ones who actually know the story
yeah,
behind it, whereas a bigger manufacturer is just doing it to increase their sales, to meet their
yeah.
quota, and it's not coming from the heart, it's coming from just money, money, money.
Absolutely.
And that's why for me personally I like to buy from small businesses or support them as best as I
Yeah,
can. Maybe I'm not always able to buy, but even if it's just me liking,
right.
commenting, sharing with friends who may be looking for something, like, hey, instead of you shopping at this bigger
Right.
retailer, why don't you come and shop with this business owner who will actually be able to reap that benefit directly.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. And more power to you for spreading that message. I think that's amazing. And I definitely do the same. I Every single time that there's like a garage sale, or like the other day I was driving by a neighborhood in Long Island, and I saw um girls with a table out with their like paintings and like hand painted like this art. And I mean, it was adorable, but I and it was freezing outside, but I'm like, you know what, I support these little girls hustling out here in the cold trying to sell me their little like art. And I bought like, I think I spent like $15 or $20, and I bought like 5 things, and I was like, you know what, this is, and I don't even know where it is now, to be honest. But I was just happy to do that. And that's always been the way that I've been. Like I always see the effort, and I always see that someone's like, if someone's trying to create something and do something, I just want to help, and I want to, even if I'm in the same position, I still want to help, just because it's like, I know the struggle. I know how real it is, and I know how much it means to the other person. And so I will always do that, and I hope to always be able to do that.
I agree. And kind of switching up gears a little bit and closing out the recording, self-love, that's a big part of your brand that you talked about. Why is self-love so important to you?
Oh my God. So I think that uh, back onto where I started out in my career, and just working crazy hours, and um, all like just not being able to feel uh, the best that I knew that I could. That's kind of like where the whole um, theory of it came from, or just like this, my catchphrase came from, I guess. Um, because I really wanted this to go back to feeling like that again. And I think the whole process from like creating and like making the brand, and thinking about it, and the whole development of it was kind of like a self-love journey, because I was finally doing what wanted to do to feel like myself. And even if it meant putting in all those hours and all that time, it was for myself, and it was for actually like fulfilling my purpose. And I think that you really can. I think it's so true that when people say, you have to love yourself first, and that it goes back to everything we've talked about, from people not being able to support other people if they aren't happy with themselves, or
Mhm.
just because of just hate or whatever it may be. I mean, wish, like, if you can give someone a prayer, like, I hope that you can learn to love yourself, so that you, because that's really, I think, like, the answer to a lot. And it also translates into relationships, um, uh, just friendships, or just like personal relationships. You can't be the person that someone else might need if you aren't like operating at your capacity, or just like how you feel most sane. And so that's kind of what I don't know if that made sense.
It does, it does.
But
It does.
thank you. And turning that back to the brand, um, high side kind of, I want people to give themselves that time. And so that's why I say put it on as an overnight treatment, or use it as a hot oil treatment. I mean, I know that there was a point, and there still are days where I can't even find 20 minutes, right? But because you're so tired from this and running to that, or running from that, and have a call or whatever. But if you can, yeah, and if you could recharge yourself, you're just going to feel so much better. I mean, I've always been someone to dress for myself also, right? It was like, or people love to say, oh, who are you, like, doing your makeup for? Myself. Like,
Yeah.
who are you, like, wearing heels for? Myself. Like, so that's always been the way that I was. And so this is for myself. And I hope that other people can do that for themselves too, so that they could feel amazing, and feel like um, luxury is at their disposal, because it should be. And it it makes you feel great. And like, product is great, fashion is great, beauty is great. Like, whoever says you don't need that, I mean, okay, that's great, but like, I love it. And I think that there are a ton of people that do. And if you do, don't let anyone take that away from you, and go buy your $30 shampoo and wash out your oud with it, because you're fab.
So how did you learn self-love? Like, what was your self-love journey?
My journey was um, kind of, well, it's super personal, right? Like, it's different for everyone. I think making sure that I did what said I was going to do, and like, holding yourself accountable, um, and um, kind of like making sure that I actually set more goals, so that I can continue to feel like fulfillment through what I'm doing. Because I get fulfillment by reaching like a landmark, or reaching a goal. That's me. And so I know that that's good for me. And I know that if I sit at home for like a week, I'm going to go crazy. And so it's really like realizing who you are and what makes you happy, and your best version, and making sure that you continue to put yourself in a position that's going to foster that, and so that you can continue to kind of like be on the rise, and on that path.
What are some of your self-love practices? I know at the beginning you said like when you worked in tax the tax world, you did like you got your nails done, you may have gotten a massage, and obviously I'm sure you use like your own product in your hair, but what are other self-love practices that you do?
Ah, I um I definitely social detox. So
Oh,
that
that's a
was
good
like,
one.
huh?
I said that's a good one.
Yes, yeah. So this year, that was so the time before I got married for 6 months, I deactivated my personal Instagram. And
What?
yes, I know. And that was like a big thing because people were like, I feel like everyone goes in the opposite direction. And at this age, especially, I feel like, yeah, a lot of my friends or peers or people I've known were getting married as well. And all I saw was like every post after post was like, my wedding, this and that. And I'm just like, I've
Yeah.
never been the person to share my personal life in that way. And I was kind of shocked and I was like, wait, am I supposed to be posting? Are people going to think I'm not happy if I don't post? And I was like, wait, I don't need this pressure. I don't need to be thinking about that. I had a fabulous wedding. It was amazing. I mean, everybody pulled up for it. Everyone looked amazing. I had my shower and I had all these events leading up to it. And I mean, literally the best of everything. And only the people that were there saw it. And I have the pictures for myself and I don't need to post them. And I didn't need to show everyone. And yes, I can post them and hashtag wedding and this and that and get like 1,000 likes easily,
Yeah.
easily. But I'm not going to because that's me and that's that's like, that's so sacred to me. That's so like personal that I don't want to share it and I don't want to put it out there. And I felt really exposed with my business. I think that's also a stage that you go through. You feel like you created this thing and now you're showing the world like literally, hey, this is the best of my ability. This is what I came up with. And like, that's your vulnerability. You have to put yourself in that position. And so, but for this, I didn't want to put that out there. Not that I was afraid of what anyone would say. I think,
Yeah.
like, I just didn't want to show people. It was just me. And so that was the best thing that I did for myself this year, because I didn't even have to think twice. Because sometimes I'll be like, you know what? Should I post this? Should I not? Should I put this on my story? I've been going to an event every day this week. Do I really need to show like every single one? Should I not snap here? But then for this, it just it wasn't even a question in my mind. I did have Snapchat still, which I only have very very close friends on. I only have like 30 or 40 friends and family on Snapchat, but on Instagram, it's kind of like more public and more like out there. And so I just made my personal Instagram public actually, and so that's a very new thing. But at that so yeah, I think that that was kind of like the biggest thing for me because I was able to just focus on the now and not recording. I feel like so many people get lost in that, and it's so easy, and I don't blame them. It's like the first thing you see something interesting, and the first thing you do is pull out your phone. And I didn't do that. I was just like, I had photographers everywhere. I knew it was going to be documented. I knew my friends were documenting, and I was totally okay with that. But I didn't. I just wanted to be present, and
Mm.
that's how I did it.
I like hearing you say that. I resonate with it so much, and you just sound so relatable. It sounds like I've known you my whole like. It sounds like you're me in a sense, just
Thank
because
you.
I'm the exact same way. My none of my parents. So my parents are very old school. Neither of my parents have any social media accounts. My dad, so my cell phone is actually my dad's old cell phone number. He does not
Uh-huh.
have a cell phone to this day. And my
Oh
parents
wow.
always, I know it's so funny when like people when I tell that to people, they're like, "You're lying." I'm like, "No, he doesn't. If I have to call him or I need to get in touch with him, I have to call the house phone." And it's funny because my parents have always taught me, don't put out your business on social media, keep it private, keep it private. And it's true because if you've seen different articles that are released on the news outlets where people have gotten killed because people have known like, oh, I know they're home because they just checked in and said they're home, or oh, I know that they're in Arizona, so let me go to their house and rob them. And besides that is just, I think with millennials and even Gen Z, it's the fact that, not the fact, is the feeling that you have to keep everyone updated with your personal life, and that's not the case. People don't have to know every move or every accomplishment or every downfall you make. Sometimes it's good to have things as private. And I'm the exact same way on my Snapchat, which I don't honestly use that much. I only have like 30 friends on my Snapchat, and those people that are on my Snapchat, I know them.
Uh-huh.
And I even block it on my Snapchat where you can't search me by my number. You can
Uh-huh.
only search me by my name. And it's even like my Snapchat name. So I would have to give you my Snapchat name. I would have to like connect in person for you to get my name. Just
Right.
because I don't want to be. So this past year has been a big year for me with energies and just like who am I connecting with and what am I like using my time to see? And
Yes.
I just don't want to be surrounded by everyone's energy. I'm not saying that necessarily everyone has bad energy, but sometimes I don't want to see just certain things that people are posting. And for me to set boundaries and protect my energy, I limit the things that I'm surrounding myself by viewing. And I just resonate and relate with that so much that it's a breath of fresh air.
Thank you. Oh my God. And on the note of energy, I am South Asian, and we literally live by energies and the evil eye, and it's just like always a topic of conversation. And it's kind of like, deflect yourself as much as you can,
Mhm.
because you just never know what other people's intentions are, unfortunately, or like what you're attracting, and kind of like protect yourself. It's so important. I think it doesn't really exist in the Western culture as much. It's crazy.
Mhm.
And I know that it's so like it's such a conversation in where I grew up, in the home I grew up in. And that was kind of also a reason why I was like, you know what, I don't need to show everyone this, because not that I don't think I ever do anything in a bragging way, but you
Mhm.
never know how someone's going to take it. And
Exactly.
so I don't know if you just broke up with someone, or I don't know if you're having a lot of trouble, and you thought you'd be married by this age and you're not, and now you see that I am, and I don't want you to feel any type of way.
Yeah.
So what, I'm just not even going to show it. And it's going to disappear anyway. So, hey, the story is going to go away after 20. So it's like, why do I even have to post it? Like, I won't even put it up there. Like, um, and then I just get creeped out.
Mhm.
But let's just, like, on every other note, like, let's leave that. Like, I never, my sister and I were like, we're not going to show the kids that
Yeah.
much. It's so funny. I really like, I talk about them like they're my own kids. So when I say the kids, it's my nieces. I don't have any, but they are my kids. And we were like, we weren't going to show them on social. And that's when Instagram was new, when my niece was born. Like, it was just, she's 4. So I think Instagram started like 5 years ago. It's kind of around the same time.
Yeah.
And she was like, we didn't want to post her baby photo. And like, now she'll show them a little more, and her account is private, I think. But like, I think I had photos of them on my page, and when I turned it public, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna kind of like hide these and archive them, and I don't like to show my parents, and I don't want to show like my siblings that much. Like, I don't know. It's like it's unless you ask for permission. Like, I'll always, if a friend is in a post, I'll be like, can I post this? Or like, because even if it's your page, like, you have to show the other person that courtesy and kind of be like, do you think you look okay in it? I do, but like, can I post this? Like, I've always been like that. So it's not like a kid's choice to be shown, right? And so
Mhm.
I don't want to show children. I don't like to get too personal up there, especially now that it's like open. And I don't even share my relationship, so I didn't want to show the wedding.
I agree with that even more where I'm a very private person, and for some friends it's been hard to deal with that. But it's just so true because you never know who could be preying on your downfall. Where if you
Yeah.
post this successful thing that you're just so happy about, and someone's just like, okay, oh great. And you're just like, well, I thought that you would be happy for me, or you would be celebrating with me and jumping for joy because maybe we've been talking about this, or this is something that I've seen in the works. But I think that that's where it just goes back to that when you meet certain people, they're used to you at this certain level in life, that when you actually elevate up from that level, and maybe I'm not saying that they're not elevating as well, but maybe they're not at that level yet of elevation. They're still in the process of working on things, that they kind of get a little jealous and just like, well, why isn't it happening for me? Like what's going on? And it's just a process of learning that not every season is everyone's season.
Right,
Sometimes certain
right,
friends are advancing quicker or faster, or maybe they're at a point where they're not advancing at all and they're still in the process of being worked on. And it's something that I've had to learn, and it's something that I've had to see in friends and just people in general, like family, even, that they don't see it from that point of view, and just learn to accept it. Either move forward and continue on with the relationship, or you just have to learn to cut ties and go your separate ways. And if it's meant to be, you guys meet back together.
right. Absolutely, absolutely. I think that was kind of the most uh just like eye-opening thing when it kind of hit me that just because you're related to someone or just because you've known them for so long doesn't mean that they're meant to be in every phase of your life.
Yeah.
Um, and I get really nostalgic and I'm like, you know what, but I grew up with you.
We're supposed to like
But
get
now
along
you're actually,
together.
yes, and then you kind of realize, you know what, you were always this way, but I didn't know. And now I know. And now I need to separate myself.
But
I think that,
I think
yeah.
it's also in the process of growth and just like leveling up. I think it's just that when you're exposed to new, yeah, you always knew that about them, but you didn't see it as bad. Whereas where you're trying to grow,
Right.
it's the
Mhm.
fact that they're still in that same mindset. And like with any of my
Yeah.
friends, I share whatever new thing that I think is positive, I share it with them. But if I notice that they're not as receptive or as open minded with it, then I just kind of push back and just stick to whatever our thing is. Like, unfortunately, sometimes you have those friends where they're just like, okay, you're my brunch friends, or you're like
Uh-huh.
entrepreneurship friends. Like, it's almost like you have to categorize your friends. And it's rare
Uh-huh.
you have that like well rounded friend where you can go to brunch, you guys can just chill at home and like Netflix and chill as friends, or you guys can go out to a
Right.
big fashion event. But sometimes you're not able to have that in well-rounded for everything friend. And that's unfortunately the
Yeah.
way that I think society is nowadays, in my opinion, at least.
Right, right. I agree with that. And you know, I that's tough because you think that everyone's on the same page as you,
Mhm.
but I think taking people for who they are because you're not here to like, raise everyone,
Yes,
right? You can't.
yes.
So yeah, so like, you take what you can get. And like if you enjoy someone's company for, you know, your annual birthday dinner, then so be it. That's what you get. Like, if you want to keep them around, like yeah, I have my friends that are, I see like every few months, and I have, yeah, it's crazy because that was a learning process for me as well. I thought that, you know what, I'm going to network and I'm, going to be at Fashion Week all week. And I thought that, who should I bring? I should bring my friend with me, like a friend, like a school friend, we talk about like day to day life friend. That person's not necessarily going to fit in that environment because I'm there to network. I'm there to, I'm there with a whole other crew and a whole other crowd. So you kind of have to pick, and you don't want to make the other person uncomfortable
Mhm.
either. So it might not be their cup of tea. It might not be what comes natural to them. And if they're open to it and you're their way in, then yeah, totally. Like, everyone come. But like, if that's not what they're, and if you're throwing them to the wolves and they feel uncomfortable and they don't know what to wear and they're going to freak out and they feel like they don't belong, then like don't do that to your friends. It's just you pick and choose and you see who works for what. And I think I'm more okay with that now. I wasn't always okay with it, and I don't always think that I saw it, but it comes with knowing like what works for what, just like what part of uh business you're better at than others and who you might need to bring in for help. Like I can be a certain way in front of a certain group and turn on that business hat and turn on the networking mode and kind of talk all entrepreneur
Mhm.
like, or I could, or there are certain people that I just think would be like, oh, whoa, we don't know this side of you, and make you uncomfortable, and you don't want to bring that person around.
And I think that's where you kind of like do the process of elimination with friendships, where it's like, if I can't be at least like 75 to 80% of my true self with you, and I have to hide
Yeah.
like most of myself just to make you feel comfortable, and I'm in the end going home upset because I wasn't able to enjoy an event or things like that, then that's where you kind of like have
Mhm.
to separate ties and just realize, you know what? Yeah, we've grown up together, or yeah, maybe we thought this was going to be a friendship that would last, but unfortunately we may have to cut ties, and just handle it in like a very, I don't want to say professional, but a very mature way. And don't just ghost a person. Like, let them know, like, hey, look, I just want you to know, like, I appreciate this friendship and everything was meant to be, but I think it's just best to kind of like, separate and go our separate ways. I wish you the best, and I hope you wish me the best, even if you don't. Like, I just hope we're able to grow.
Right, right, absolutely. And a friend of mine actually said that to me. She goes like, because well, it's so crazy because I met her through an internship I did years ago, and then we kept in touch. Shout out to Rebecca. And she lives in Florida
Oh,
actually. Yeah, and then actually, well, she just recently moved to
oh
California,
wow.
but every time she's back in New York, we meet up. She came in for my wedding. Like I love her. We have our relationship actually grew more on social, which is actually like one of the plus sides because you get back in touch with people you met years ago, and then like you again someone I didn't even know super super well, but always showed so much love. And like ordered off the bat and like will post whenever she can, like give us shout outs, and I love that. And so I mean I've I don't think I've seen her like even like more than like 10 times in the last like not even 10, like 5 times in the last like 5 years. But I still like I'm sitting here talking about her. So she was like when she came to New York to visit last time, and she was like, I was like, I love that you made the time to do this. She's like, absolutely, because I know you would, and we just get along. And she's like, I was like, but I find myself sometimes making time for people just for the sake of it because I've known them so long or because I feel guilty. And she's like, you gotta say no. You have to like, she's like, I've literally been like, I'm sorry, I have a limited amount of time and I can only see a few people and you're just not a priority. She told me she said that to someone once before and I was like dying. My jaw dropped. I'm like, you actually wrote back to someone saying that? And she's like, yeah, I had to because I mean, you as you grow, you end up like, realizing like how much more valuable your time is and you can't just like, divvy it out to any random person you met 7 years ago. So I thought that was so crazy, but I loved that she said that. And that kind of was like, you know what? I have to do that. And not that I use those words or not that I did that, but in my own way, I kind of like, just let a conversation die and don't have to reply to everything. And like, it's gradually like let it take its
Wow,
course.
that's very like
Yeah.
that's very mature in my opinion.
Yeah. The fact that she did
No, yeah,
that.
the fact that she did that was very mature.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, I couldn't believe it, but I loved it. I loved her for it and for saying that. And I was like, yeah, you're kind of like paving the way for
And
me in
it's
that
almost
way.
like with friendships like
Um,
that, it makes you respect the person more. Like instead of you like I said, instead of you ghosting, because that's a very popular and trendy word, you're actually being mature and saying, you
uh-huh.
know what, I don't want you second guessing or wondering why I stopped talking to you, or even why I'm not able to meet up with you. Let me just be upfront and tell you. You don't have to second guess. I don't have to second guess, and it's just clear, and I can go to bed happy. And yeah. And
Right.
one thing I will say, a quote that I saw on Instagram that we kind of both mentioned, I kind of think it goes with relationships in the romantic sense, but I think it could go for friendships is you are not a rehabilitation center for broken people. It's not your job to fix them, change them, parent them, or raise them. You want a partner, not a project. And it's like you do want your friends and be supportive of each other, but it's also not your job to like, hold their hands through everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. It goes for personal, like, your romantic relationship all the way to like your friendships. And I think that you show, if you're in a,
No,
bless you,
I
did
like
you
sniffled a
sneeze?
little, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Um, I think that if you find yourself compromising your own values to be accepting of other people that you know just because you want to like not make them feel bad, I don't think that that's a friendship you need to be in either. I think you it's there's so many times where you don't want to come off judgy or like this or that because it just seems seen so negatively, but like actually I don't always agree with the things I hear and I don't really know how to react to them. And I think that you have to come to a point where you're like, I don't agree with the kind of person someone is, and I don't want that around me, because I think it's true, you are a reflection of the people you
Mhm.
keep around you. Or the five, what is it, five people that you speak to the most, or whatever the quote is, like you're a sum of them. I think that's actually true. And if you so in when I'm actually in the mode, I guess I'm a reflection of all the people I listen to in a podcast, because that's what I do. And it's what the words you're gonna surround yourself by is kind of like how you're gonna act. Just like um what the law of attraction, right? Like what you put
Mhm.
out is what you're going to get back. So the people you're going to be around is kind of what you're going to become, even if you don't do it intentionally. It's going
It's
to
a
be a subconscious
Go
thing.
ahead, finish.
So yeah, I make sure you know what you're doing with that, because you don't want to create a new norm, or like a norm that's unbeknownst to you, that you didn't know you were doing, because uh you just hear these stories and it's just what you think everyone's like, and then it's like, whoa, wait, that's not normal, that's weird. um wow, she's not that great of a person for doing that. It's tough, but like you have to like protect yourself, and you have to make sure you surround yourself with people that align with your morale and kind of
It's so true, and it's
what
funny
you're
that you
about.
mentioned the fact that you don't really watch TV shows. Like the only thing you really watch, and you're not even really watching it, is Gossip Girl. But I was reading that
Uh-huh.
the most successful people in the world don't have time for TV. They spend 30 minutes a day at least reading books, and they spend the rest of their time, if they need like audio or something to entertain themselves with, they're listening to like audiobooks or podcasts, like other things that are like feeding into them, and they're investing in themselves. They're not wasting their time watching TV. And I think that's what separates people who say they're about something and people who are actually about it, and showing it through how they spend their time and the ways that they're investing in themselves.
Right. 100%. Just don't talk
So
about
I
it,
did
be
want to
about it too.
wrap it up with two more
And
questions. First question is there anything that I didn't ask that you want to say? Any advice you want to give to other entrepreneurs or people who are out there thinking about, should I finish school or should I just start the brand or should I do both at the same time?
so I think that that's always I don't so I mean, honestly, if you're a prodigy and you created this amazing product or app, or like, you're just, you have, if you're Steve Jobs, like, yes, don't finish school. And you again, back to the self-awareness, what kind of person you are, and kind of like, if you really, really think that you have some groundbreaking idea or concept, and school isn't in the cards for that, or for doing that, then you know what? I wouldn't say like, yeah, you have to finish your 4 years. But I still think that education is important, whether it's university education or whether it's just educating yourself in other means. And I don't think learning ever ends. It really doesn't. Again, everyone says that, but it's, the cliche quotes are cliche and reused and oversaid for a reason, because they're true. Like, a lot of them are true. And so I think that there's value in continuing to emphasize that. Always learn. Don't stop yourself. Read everything. One of my friends um, told me that years ago, and I think that That's always stuck with me. She's like a super scholar. She's been at Oxford. She's been at Cornell. She's at Brown studying for her PhD. I love her. And she told me years ago. She's like, read everything, pick up everything. And I'm like, that's what I do. If I see something, if I'm sitting down, if I'm in a waiting room, I don't know the last time I was in a waiting room, but like I will pick up a magazine and I'll read an article, or I'll go like press the link for the newsletter in my email and like actually just read it, because you just whatever you can like absorb, do it. Like it's free, it's knowledge, it's power. Just soak it up. That would be my biggest advice. I'm going to pass that one along.
So the last question, the podcast is named Pour Into My Cup, and I like to end off by asking everyone the same question, which I'll have an episode basically going over how I came up with this question. But I have to ask, do you feel that your cup is half empty or half full?
Half full, for sure. Always optimistic, or I try to be. But I think that a lot of people that know me well would say I'm fairly optimistic as well. And maybe it's the way I was raised. I mean, not maybe, I'm sure my parents have a lot to do with this. I didn't ever think that something was too like out of reach. And so when it was like, okay, if I ever heard that, this is the hardest job that you could have, and it's the hardest thing to do in school, I was like, oh, I could probably do that. I don't want to, but like, yeah, I could do that. Like, yeah, it's like, I think growing up, I was even like, yeah, I could go to like Harvard. Harvard's the best. Okay, cool. I could go there. I didn't go there, but like, I never thought that anything was like out of reach. And that's, I guess, what they mean by ignorance is bliss, right? Like it's blissful to know that, or think that you can do anything, because you're not afraid of the setback. You're not afraid of the failure. But I think that I was also prepared to, if the failure did occur, and if I did have setback, I didn't ever think that I couldn't get up from it. And so I think that I've had an optimistic approach, and like the glass is half full for me, because I thought that I could.
That's good. It's like you said, like the glass was always half full, but it's also that saying of there was no glass ceiling. Like you went past it, and you always believed in yourself, which is something that a lot of women struggle with, I feel like, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And I hope that like with more talks like this, and like with more conferences, or like group workshops, or where we met, like Create and Cultivate, like I just hope a lot more of these things pop up, where people can find a familiar voice or home, or like or something to like kind of give them that hope and feel like they're part of a community that does believe in them.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I thought it was an amazing conversation, and I hope that we're able to work again together and maybe do like an updated episode. For people who are listening and want to learn more about your products and buy your products, where can they find you and your brand at?
Oh my God. Okay, so you can find me at Big Hira, BIGHIRA on Instagram, and my company, HisiBrands, at HISIBRANDS brands on Instagram, and our website, HisiBrands.com.
Well, thank you again, and I
that's
hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Rashiba. This was so fun. I hope to talk again. Okay. Bye.
Can't wait until the next episode to get your cup filled? Follow us on our social media platform for daily inspiration
at Pour Into My Cup on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. Or check out our blog and services at www.pourintomycup.org. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast to stay updated when new episodes are released. Leave a review and pour into someone else's cup by sharing the podcast. And I have to ask, is your cup half empty or half full? Peace, love, happiness. Rashiba, signing off.